B, I want to talk to you about the college thing, okay?
I'm so excited.
Hey, I'm not taking you with me.
Hey, what's up, and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars, where today I'm going to be bringing it back to my Transformers rewatch of films, and today I'm talking about the second film, Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. Transformers Revenge of the Fallen takes us to a world where the military and the Transformers are now working together to rid the world of the rest of the Decepticons. But things get substantially worse when they learn that the Decepticons have been on the Earth for centuries, hiding until the day that they could power up a planet-killing device called a Sun Harvester. So Sam, Michaela, Optimus Prime, and a few other familiar faces band together once again to defeat those bad robots. When it comes down to this original trilogy starring Shia LaBeouf, I think that this second film is often seen as the weakest link, and I'd probably agree with that statement. It's not outright horrible, but one thing that it definitely is a bit too much. Again, they all are in different ways, but I feel like that it's especially true for Revenge of the Fallen because somewhere in this film lies a pretty good story, but it's mostly muddled behind a lot of unnecessary side plots, needless action, and comedy that sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. Let me try to explain what works about this film. With any sequel, you want something that's new and different, but still feels like it belongs in the series. And that's what you get with three things in this movie. The Sun Harvester device, the humanoid transformer that kind of looks like it comes straight out of a Terminator movie, and my personal favorite, Sam starting to get these cybernetic visions throughout the film. And that's a lot of fun. Truthfully, if they kept the plot of the film contained to those three things, it would be shorter, yeah, but it would be a lot more engaging as a film. But by adding a lot of other things, those three elements that are actually good are easily glossed over and ignored by most audiences. And before I start diving into even more negatives, I want to also mention the aspects of this film that were good in the first movie, and they're still good now. And that mostly has to go into the visuals and the comedy. The visuals, as usual, look pretty good. I don't think all of the visuals look good all the time. Like, for instance, anytime the Transformers are in space. Everything in those scenes are in CGI, and you can kind of notice it. But everything on Earth looks fine. The comedy, as I mentioned before, sometimes that worked, sometimes it didn't. And that's mostly because they went hog wild on the comedy. Literally everybody in here is cracking jokes left and right, other than maybe Optimus Prime. I mean, Shia LaBeouf is obviously pretty big on the humor, as always, and he's probably the best part of the film because he can go back and forth between that humor and intensity. Sam's parents have a lot more screen time in this film, since I feel like a lot of people like them in the first movie, since they are an awkward humor type of character couple. There's a couple of twin Autobots in this movie that are literally nothing more than comedic relief. There's still the really tiny Decepticon bad guy robot that's also a comedic relief type of character. Sam's off to college, and his roommate is also somebody that keeps cracking jokes. They run into that Sector 7 guy from the first movie, and again, same thing, jokester. And it keeps going like that, as if the movie was literally trying to be more of a comedy than a serious thing. And to balance that out, I feel like Michael Bay really honed in on those infamous explosions, which brings me to the negatives. I found Revenge of the Fallen to be pretty forgettable overall, and sometimes boring, even though a lot is constantly happening. A part of that has to do with the humor that doesn't always work. Some of that has to do with the random explosions. There's plenty of times while watching this film where I thought to myself, why did that thing over there even explode? I mean, how does that happen? And I get that that's just Michael Bay being Michael Bay, which just sometimes tends to get worse over time, but I couldn't help but notice that in this film. I also think that they overused characters. They didn't need to have Sam's parents in the main action. They can just make a cameo in the beginning, that's fine, but leave it at that. They also didn't need Megan Fox in the main action either. She added literally nothing to the movie. Again, leave her as a cameo. Then you have Megatron, and he didn't need to be in the movie at all. They killed him in the first one, and they decided to bring him back this time, I feel like, because he's a fan favorite, and not because he has anything to add to the film that any other Decepticon couldn't do themselves. His existence is useless and nothing more than fan service. Even the Sector 7 guy, it could be argued that he was too much, though I might be willing to be a little bit more lenient to him since he did actually add to the plot. Honestly, like I said, there was a little bit too much for no reason. The filming location of Egypt was cool, I'll admit that. It kind of brings me back to the James Bond film that also took place in some of the same filming locations. And again, I did like some of the plot regarding the Sun Harvester, the visions that Sam has, and the humanoid transformer. But pretty much everything else is too much unneeded stuff, which is never what you want for a movie that's 2.5 hours long. Let's go ahead and break down my final score. From a technical vantage point, Transformers Revenge of the Fallen still looks really nice, and somewhere deep down there is a story that I think is somewhat solid, but a ton of it is filled to the brim with what I consider to be pointless filler material that lessens the effectiveness of the things that are actually good. So this technical unbiased score is 66%. And when it comes down to my biased score, it's a little bit lower because it's one of those films that you can't help but check your watch throughout the runtime. Is this movie still on? Again, some cool ideas in there. But even the greatest ideas seen in this film are not strong enough to warrant the film's runtime. This score is 60%. And when we average out the two scores together, we come to the final rating of 63%. 63 out of 100 possible stars, or a C letter grade. Guys, what are your thoughts on this second Transformers film? Let me know in the comment section down below. And as for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. And until then, peace out.
Dave examines movies we just watch for fun. Davey is the expert. He is the #1 critic that I go to when I need him